Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon. Unfortunately, we had to drop out, so we had to replace two panelists. But yes, we're going to be discussing various topics when it comes to cryptocurrencies, blockchain technologies, how Web3 can enable iGaming platforms, if it's loyalty, gamification, retention, and multiple other areas. Before jumping into the discussion, I would like for the speakers to introduce themselves. Haran?
Right, so my name is Evan Shai. I'm based on the famous Rock of Gibraltar. Our company basically is an innovation consultancy firm. We assist a lot of the operators in finding the right tech solutions for them, be it payment solutions, customer experience technologies, affiliate networks, and so on.
Hi, my name is Lina Petteri. I'm Vice President at HFX, one of the world's leading online trading platforms. I worked before that 16 years in iGaming and have been working with blockchain and crypto for around 10 years. I'm also a shareholder in one of the biggest shoe companies in the Nordic region, where we created our own blockchain for sustainability purposes. So yeah, very interested. So if you came to watch Ricardo, I'm very sorry to disappoint you. It's going to be me instead. Yeah, and over to you.
Yeah, I'm the second substitute, but hopefully will provide a bit of value as well. So my name's Martin. I'm the marketing director at ICS Digital and ICS Translate. We are a marketing and translation agency, as it kind of is obvious, but we also do work very heavily in Forex and trading. And then on the iGaming side, with crypto casinos, with people who accept crypto and people who are developing what they think are innovative solutions on the blockchain as well, and how that is feeding into how they differentiate or how they don't differentiate. So happy to give some perspective there as well.
Very good. So jumping straight into the discussion, I believe one of the big question marks of people in iGaming that want to adopt cryptocurrencies is one of the questions that they ask is, how do we start? We know that there's multiple layers when it comes to crypto. It's not just offering crypto as a payment solution, but you need to have your own crypto treasury. You need to make sure transactions are working well. Security side, I would say it's purely the same from a fiat to an emerging side, but obviously we need to cater for different markets, different people, and even how the technology itself works. So curious to hear, like from your side, and especially real-world use cases, how can people adopt these use cases and how people are utilizing these emerging technologies across our industry. I don't know if you want to start yourself, Aaron?
Yeah, so, first from the amount of people here in the audience today, we can see that it's either that many people find this topic either challenging, so they are not really understand as well how crypto can be adopted into the gaming, or that there is a very exciting launch going on very soon. So anyway, I think that, look, from what we've seen so far, there have been many attempts in getting, for example, NFTs and other digital assets to function as a token or as some sort of a utility to entice people to go into various casinos or into other forms of betting. Now, from what we've seen, many of those NFT projects, for example, were evolving around the idea that we will build a community of users. The community would be decentralized, so there would be no central decision making. It would be a community that would decide how our tokens would be utilized. We can give them some form of loyalty programs and so on. But actually, at the end of the day, the players, what they were interested in is how quickly can I withdraw my money after I win? How easily can I move from one casino to another? We didn't really see much of a community being built around those NFTs. I think perhaps the actual promise of some sort of a utility benefit wasn't as tangible as some of the people have thought originally. Right, we can get some substantial benefits out of it, and also most people at the end of the day just bought into those NFTs as a speculative move rather than actually being active on the community. So we've seen that it has been very challenging for some of the crypto casinos and some of the other type of betting companies to try and adopt NFTs and other digital assets into a way that would attract users.
I think one of the biggest problems that we saw was that NFTs was introduced by a bunch of idiots, because the way we saw it was buy this art for 250,000, and everybody was laughing and thinking, "What is this?" And it took all the seriousness away for what NFTs actually can do. How you can utilize blockchain. And I always think is one of the biggest disfavors we actually did when we introduced this into people. Because if you're a normal person and you're looking at this and you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. And on top of that, we saw all the scam that was surrounded it as well. So of course, if you're a serious casino and you're saying, okay, we're a little bit worried, we don't know the regulations, the ramifications yet, and I think that have given a lot of a pushback to it. When that said, I absolutely love blockchain. I love crypto, and I love what we can use it for. I've worked on some projects myself for where we can see to use it for affiliation, where we have a huge problem, for instance, when it comes to poker players and sportsbook players. When they're sitting under an affiliate, then maybe they rather want to sit under another affiliate. The operator have a problem that we have to move that or retag that player over to another. And that's a huge. I worked at Entain at this point when we did this project, and there was a huge commotion around it because, of course, an affiliate don't want to lose a good player, but maybe the player refused to play under that affiliate. So one of the things that we talked about is, what if you could actually put those players into the NFTs? And we have different levels. So, for instance, you have the best players would maybe be gold level, and then if you as an affiliate then can sell that player and that NFT to that affiliate, then it's fair for everybody. So this is one way we practically could do it. And if this is 100% regulated, it is something that people actually understand. It will be a win-win for the player who get moved. It will be a win-win for the affiliate who gets money for it, from both sides, and for the operator. So that's some examples where I thought this could really be utilized in a good way.
I think there are two key elements there. One is it practical, and one is is it something people can understand? And I think this is where we're on the strongest footing when it comes to crypto or any kind of innovation, because it's very hard to push innovation on people if it's not something that they want to do. If they don't want to be part of a community, you can't make them. You cannot inauthentically create that. The motivation is either there or it isn't. Whereas if we tap into existing motivations like being able to be more flexible in terms of the business relationships, the level of transactional ownership, if we're able to, again, back to what Aaron said at the very start, what every player wants, which is the ability to trust that this entity is going to pay me out fast and I'm not going to get any bullshit. That's kind of the centrality. Like anything else, it does risk falling into the fad or the trend-based side of things, which can be fun and it can be funny, but it's not necessarily going to be something that is the basis of an ongoing business. And I think that's kind of, as somebody who works at a marketing agency, that's something where we have to say no to people reasonably. I mean, less so now. But I'd say 2 years ago when things were really, really kicking off post-COVID, I think you have to say no to people who say, I've got this massive, innovative idea. I'm going to create this organic network of people who are all going to be massively interested in my particular niche blockchain kind of offering. And well, you're not, because you don't have the budget to brute force that, and also it's not intrinsically compelling of itself in that it's not solving a problem stark enough for people to spend their time to understand it. Whereas, what Lena was saying is, if people can understand what problem it solves and it's a practical solution, they'll jump on a lot of things that are very new and innovative, but they've got to be able to get their head around it. That was a lot of talking, I apologize.
No, very valid points, and obviously something to keep in mind that players don't give a shit how your platform is set up. They just want fast deposits, fast withdrawals, and a good experience on the platform itself. So again, looking back 2020, 2019, that's where we sort of had the hype during COVID of blockchain, NFTs, Web3, where we saw a lot of NFT projects like Rollbit, which is one of the leading, I would say, Web3 platforms out there, which purely started from an NFT project. I was one of those people that bought one out of curiosity, which then obviously I saw them build and scale in various areas, especially having a platform where you can leverage crypto, you can trade, you can play on sports betting, you can even dive into the casino side as well. So it was pretty clear that it's another vertical. And something that I like to say is people that own crypto are gamblers. So it goes hand in hand. So basically, if anyone in here holds crypto, you're just hoping that the cryptocurrency that you bought is going to go in higher value. And that's purely gambling. So that's another sort of coloration we are seeing across iGaming. And reason why iGaming is one of the biggest industries out there that utilizes crypto payments from a volume perspective, obviously versus exchanges, Binance, Bybit, and so on.
Just very, very briefly on that, I think this is a really interesting point because it's a way of profiling in a way, because like you see, and especially if there's a spectrum of like risk and silliness to like low risk, not so silly, like really boring stocks, the people who are holding this type of thing here on a more speculative way, they probably are more risk takers. They're probably more interested in, just giving something a spin, so to speak. And that, from a player profiling perspective, I think that's quite compelling, even if they are not using crypto to bet, even if they're using fiat currency to bet. Just on a profiling perspective, if they are the type of person who also happens to hold crypto, I think that's quite compelling. And this is where, a lot of the bigger operators, where they can organize their resources, which is not always the case. They are looking at this type of profiling and like, what are the attributes of my customer? Not just that they are 20 to 45 male who likes football, but like what else are they into? What kind of psychological type of behaviors are they exhibiting? What interests do they have? And then they can, on the affiliate side, we're at an affiliate conference, they can think, what is good traffic? What kind of players do I want to attract? What kind of deals do I want to strike with the people that can bring me those players? That's where it gets more interesting, I think, from a profiling perspective.
In fact, yes, mentioning the affiliate side, it was my next question. Knowing nowadays, I believe all affiliates, their main sort of payment or transaction is crypto. Why? Every crypto platform out there, took over nearly all the traditional ones. So when it comes to affiliates, how they can utilize the blockchain side rather just crypto payments, because yes, it's the first sort of door to offer your customers or even service providers to be paid or be paid in crypto. But when it comes to blockchain technologies, I know you mentioned, Linnell, as well regarding the shoe company having it on the blockchain to avoid counterfeit. How can this be evolved and enhanced when it comes to affiliation, marketing, retention, and so on?
So for me, it's obviously I've been working most on the operator side with affiliates. So a lot of the things I think most operators have had the issue and challenge with is bad traffic, bad affiliates, CPA fraud, and I don't know if people know how Entain is working. Entain have 21 online brands, and if an affiliate was sending one player in who was already on the Ladbrokes, presented on the BWin, it would be considered a duplicate within the system for it, which can be a little bit because it's two different brands. So a lot of affiliates try to be cheeky and try to go around that for it, and it was at that time I was there pretty difficult to find out all the time. So obviously the blockchain, and this is the reason I like it, is that this is one truth. Like it's absolutely cut in set in stone. So by utilizing that, you can make sure that you can avoid this CPA fraud, these bonus abusers, because everything will be in the blockchain. And I think that is one way that operators can really use it. And for the affiliates who are sending good traffic, it's also good because it does mean that they will get the payment much faster, I believe, because their affiliate managers don't have to sit and spend weeks and weeks to actually sit and recalculate or maybe even to claw back for it. So that is one, I think, very tangible solution that could be used.
Yes, I mean, I think even from our experience with some of the operators we've been working with, I think the case of fraudulent users, fraudulent bonuses, and so on, sometimes been as high as 20 to 25%, which is crazy. It's a huge amount. And obviously, yeah, by utilizing blockchain and the authentication of the users can be, validated in a much better way. Now, the question is, when it comes to the affiliates, you need to then at the end of the day ask yourself, right, but are the operators prepared to accept traffic and depositors in crypto at the end of the day? Because people who would be, even if the affiliates utilize blockchain technology for other things, not just the payment, the deposits, and so on, normally the ones who would be sending the traffic would be people that are more kind of crypto oriented. And so what we need to see is how quickly would some of the more regulated markets would adopt crypto payments into the actual operators. Having spent quite a lot of time with the Gibraltar regulator, gambling regulator, on this topic, I mean, from the regulator side, I think there is big interest to see, and there is big appetite actually for the industry to embrace crypto. I think if you speak to many of the regulators, they would be actually thrilled to see operators accepting crypto. But you'll find that it's actually the other way around at the moment, that a lot of the operators are still very hesitant on we on the blockchain and embrace crypto payments. If someone facilitate that, but at the end of the day, you need for the operators to embrace it. And at the moment, that's the biggest challenge in the industry.
That's kind of interesting point because from our experience, it feels like it almost two opposite streets where you got the safe gambling side of things and regulation to let the transparency and the need for the customer experience side of things, being fair to customers and all this type of stuff like last push. And the other side is we know there are green black markets where crypto dominates, and that also shapes the conversation, the wider perceptions what crypto is and what it's for and who it's for. So I think that's a practical thing to swear in the industry, because I think some people will see crypto as inherently dodgy, and some people see crypto as, the solution to a lot of problems that will make things there. So I think that's a really interesting
thing to try and navigate.
But just to add to that, I think every time a new technology has been introduced, it's always been called dodgy. I remember, I'm old enough to remember when internet started, and everybody was saying that this is a bad thing. This is just porn. People can do a lot of bad things on it. And it's like, no, and all the smart people saying, oh, this is not going to last. And then Web 2 came, and then they begin to complain about that. So I think all new technologies would always have that phase where it goes on this weird, where it's not really regulated, it's not really like, and people try to grasp, understand, and I think that's exactly where we are with Web3 and crypto right now. So I just think right now we're just ahead of it, but in 5-10 years, people will say, oh yeah, and then we are discussing the next big thing. So I think actually to understand it, we need to look at the conversations we had, with Web 1, with Web 2, and say, what was it actually that made the push? That was when we begin to unite ourselves. This is when we begin to unionize and make it much more transparent. Of course, there will always be gray and black. Come on, there's also still these weird porn sites, I'm sure. Okay, not because I know anything about it.
I've got a list.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'll share it.
Exactly. But so that would always be. But as soon as you start unionize, you start to do that transparency that you mentioned. This is where we see the big change and almost avalanche effect come into place. And I think conversations like this hopefully will help it as well.
I do agree, but then in terms of the getting to that point of maturity, I think the kind of things you spoke about earlier about, NFTs and rug pulls and all of the weirdness, I think that delays getting to that point. So, and I think that's probably one thing, wasn't quite the same with the early internet. I mean, I think this, for a lot of people, crypto is defined by the wackiness, even though it shouldn't be. And I think that's delayed and muddied the waters of these types of public conversations, even though people in this room might be more sophisticated.
Yeah, and from the regulator's point of view, um, the more regulated operators that would embrace crypto, the smaller the unregulated market would become. And so, hence, that's why there are so much in support of that. Obviously, it's, as I said, it's more challenging for the operators to actually act on it and embrace it. But
I think
they're
also
all for it, yeah.
they want to, the regulators want to see how it works in practice with somebody who will open their books to them a little bit, like a fully regulated big tier 1 operator. They kind of want them to take the risk and say, right, you guys do it and we'll see how it goes, and then we'll then adjudicate what bad things you did.
Well, look, I mean, in Gibraltar, for example, to be able to accept crypto for the operators, they need to have a financial services license as well. So, hence the difficulty in that. So, obviously, it's a quite onerous process to go through to become also to have financial services license. You need to have various liquidity ratios as well that you need to abide by, and obviously much bigger probably compliance and finance team to ensure all is done in a much more verified and monitored way. But at the end of the day, I think that if a tier 1 operator would become crypto friendly, they would see a huge uptake from many of the players out there that that are into the crypto. And because from the player point of view, crypto is a very easy solution for quick deposit, quick withdrawal, much less hassle from the banks, and as we discussed before, it's a much better way to verify the authenticity of the user. So.
But I think the big problem here is that one of the reasons the players are using crypto, maybe it's because there's something they don't want to show, but also because of the speed of things. So now I work for one of the biggest trading platforms. So obviously we have crypto and we trade with crypto as well. And the KYC that we have to force down to our users is crazy. And I'm not even sure that players that want to play in a casino would go to that level of KYC. So by force, I think the challenge is that the regulators, they're simply too ignorant of what's going on. So they put these crazy KYC measurements in place to protect the users, but ultimately end up making it much more murky, much more difficult and complicated. And I think that's also one of the things. If we begin to implement this for operators, and it takes at least 15 minutes, and then every 2 weeks they have to redo it, I'm not sure how many players who wants to keep doing it. They're gonna.
Yeah, and if you're doing that process, it doesn't feel very trustworthy. I mean, even if all of this data is designed to protect you, it doesn't feel like I'm very protected if I'm giving over all of this information that's taking up so much time. I'm thinking, well, am I being scammed here, giving all this information? And I think that's the challenge. What the regulators might be asking tier 1 operators to take on more scrutiny, get FCA licenses or what, and take on more work, and for the benefit of players. And they don't always do stuff for the benefit of players, unfortunately. But I mean, hopefully the competitive differentiation will be strong enough to eventually push this forward. But I just think there's all going to be all of these naysayers and obstacles and work to get through. But we will get there. Like, undoubtedly, it's the way things are going. It's too well established. There's too much of a critical mass. But yeah, maybe it will be that avalanche, like you say, like a good avalanche.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the onerous way that on the KYC for players and all that. But I think this is where a lot of the compliance technology can evolve and can contribute a lot to make this process easy. I mean, if you look back at the history of online gambling, there are the days in which you had to send even a certified passport copy, to scan it and all this. Nowadays, it's all about, video authentication even, or everything can be done in a much more smoother and quicker way. And I'm sure that now with AI, we will see some more compliance tech solutions coming up onto the market and facilitating that. So yes, KYC is a challenge, but I'm sure there would be the solutions there, people working on those solutions already.
So yeah, eventually we dived into the regulation side, which I believe it's a bit of a Pandora's box at the moment when it comes to crypto. Why? We have different regulators setting out different policies, if it's Europe, Middle East, US, where really and truly they should all work together. Why? People, let's look at Amazon. I'm pretty sure Amazon wants to adopt crypto as a payment solution, and they will increase their sales because obviously there's an appetite and there's people that are utilizing this currency. Like we see people moving nowadays from an exchange to a gambling platform, and now we have prediction markets. Let's face it, prediction markets are built and became popular because of the blockchain. It's built on the blockchain. It's easier for people to predict, to move money in, out, less boundaries. And obviously, we're most probably, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be an added vertical to iGaming, like crypto became in the past years. But we were mentioning KYC and other regulations. When it comes to crypto now, obviously we have new policies. We have KYT, which is know your transaction through chain analysis. We have travel rules, which eventually are sort of SEPA, IBAN journeys for people to share information. Now, if not mistaken, Martin, you mentioned that, yes, from a player experience, we're coming to a point that they are staying back. Why? They are being asked where you're sending the money, from where you're sending it. And these questions are coming from exchanges, not from the operator. But unfortunately, the operator needs to reply. Now, from my experience, something that mitigates this issue is having travel rules and chain analysis in place. Why? If an exchange or a regulator reaches out to you as an operator or an affiliate, you have something to show. And it's accordingly to the regulations that we have now in place with MiCA. Realistically, every emerging technology is unregulated, including AI, which I believe should be regulated ASAP, because it's doing more harm than positive in multiple areas. Because obviously everyone became a developer, everyone became a content writer, everyone can build a company from scratch, which really and truly are not that sustainable or scalable. People are not thinking ahead. They're thinking now. Let's build this, let's solve this problem, but then when we have 100 users using our white label, then we see. So this being said, now yes, crypto's growing, blockchain is there, Web3 is there, but how we can sort of mitigate companies not just diving into it without any knowledge and being sort of focusing on the security side as well. We mentioned decentralization, which regulators can sort of utilize because there's more transparency. That's what they want. But why they're not utilizing it at this point in time? So curious how you're seeing this evolve from your perspectives. Don't you want to start from your side, Aaron?
So we, yeah, I mean, we are seeing definitely more DeFi structures, some other form of decentralized and more kind of, going back to what we spoke about, NFTs and all that, some more structures like that, which are then driving those communities onto online gaming in a way. But look, the challenge there is definitely, I think, more to do with some of those operators, again, being restricted from a regulatory perspective on, look, we don't want to get into financial services, so they don't want to do anything which they kind of stretch the limit of within what they can do within the remits of their gambling license, but as to not to be to fall under financial services scope yet, because again, that entails a whole range of additional resources that would need to be deployed and some other various financial ratios that they would need to abide with. I think there's definitely more room for communication there between regulators and the operators and some of the exchanges, the crypto exchanges, about how to synchronize operations between them. I think if there would be much better communication between the three or even four sides. Sometimes, we sit in a meeting where our job is to ensure that we're sitting with the operator, the regulator, the crypto exchange, and the bank, and our job is to make sure they don't come alive out of that meeting without killing each other there, because each one is obviously has its own objectives and its own rules that they would want the operator to abide with. But it's a very difficult kind of symbiosis relationship to maintain. But yeah, this is, as I said, such communication needs to continue between those different stakeholders in order so that all sides understand how they can make the process smoother for the industry to embrace crypto much fully.
Agreed.
Sorry, guys. We have 5 minutes left before we go to lunchtime. Just if there are any questions that you want to.
Sure.
It's up to you.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, this said, is there any questions from the audience that
Really
someone would
aggressive
like to ask?
questions, aggressive, embarrassing questions.
We want to know if you listened.
Yeah, we'll ask you questions. We'll test you on all of our cool stuff.
Does everyone hold crypto here? Raise of hands. No one?
Does anyone uses that in a crypto casino or some? No. One.
No.
How has been your experience so far on that?
You touched that point, but if there aren't any better questions, I will ask. In terms of KYC, it seems to me like it's a trouble. It's a problem. People don't want to repeat the process again and again when they change casinos, and on the same side, they don't want to give out their information to so many different platforms. And from the other hand, like Eran said, the KYC, the compliance companies are coming up with new solutions, but it seems to me that the problem on both sides can be solved relatively easily with blockchain, actually. So some kind of identity NFT that you can just give or withdraw whenever you want. And so our regulators trying to solve these type of problems using the blockchain, using the new technology.
So eventually, I would say you don't need the blockchain to sort of solve this. Nowadays, we're seeing that operators are creating omnichannel wallets. It started out realistically from land-based casinos in Vegas, where basically nowadays, if you go and gamble land-based at any resort of MGM, you can go back home online and continue your instance with your same KYC account and wallet. So basically what is being done is creating an omni-channel portal where the customer passes KYC once and then can jump onto multiple platforms with the same wallet itself. Now we have products nowadays that can even solve this, like SumSub, which is widely used when it comes to KYC. Nowadays they offer even KYT. So basically you have a one-stop shop to fulfill all your needs. But I don't know others, if they have other examples.
I'm not sure, but I think one of the challenges with sharing that KYC has always been the data protection and so on. So GDPR, some other data protection rules in other countries. So that has always been the main inhibitor for that. So even though maybe from a technology point of view, it's possible, and it's even easier. Sometimes it's to do with restrictions on data protection that operators do not want to kind of fall foul of, or something like that. Yeah.
But even if it in the same companies, so for instance, and saying we obviously worked in Denmark, Sweden, like, you know, so I had to have their own set of the way that this store personal information. So even there, the KYC was different between that. So there's so many different layers to it. So again, I think technical. I think quite a lot have actually tried to do it already, but the problem is that all, as you mentioned, that the countries are not working together. So because there's so many different rules and restrictions, and this is also what I actually see as the biggest challenge for crypto across borders. I listened to these podcasts about it. What I had quite a lot of lawyers in that, and they tried to get them to solve. Like, you know, just like they had like quick just to solve it. And the problem is, as soon as it goes over to another country, the whole data set will change, and this is where it strands. So the idea about having a unified, you know, for instance, eKYC that you could use across all operators are good. The problem is just that country for countries, again, you will have new layers to it. But actually, I agree, you could probably use blockchain for that and then add the layers to that. That's a very good idea.
I mean, it's probably not a technological issue. Ultimately, it'll be the human and political and business and regulatory and financial. That will be the limiting factor, probably.
Jurisdictions are the problem. Like, again, Malta was called a blockchain island. But realistically, if you're Maltese and deposit just $10 from Binance to your Maltese bank, you're blacklisted. So it falls down to different jurisdictions, different markets, different policies. Unfortunately, this is how it is. We do see it's going to change. Keep in mind, governments are working on digital currencies. This all started because of crypto. They lost control, and they need to get control back. So the only way to get control with all digital currencies is having a digital euro, a digital USD. And obviously, this will be built on the blockchain itself. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
Good.